Welcome to our business roundtable. These are ongoing online events that will shift focus, different guests, different topics, and at the end of the guest presentation, we can open it up to just general concern, things that you're facing, things you're interested in talking about with fellow businesses. But right now, I want to intro Amanda Levins, who is our communications, and she will intro our guest. Go hit it, Amanda.
Hi guys, for those of you that don't know, I am CIPO's fundraising and communications coordinator. So I do handle our social media and things as well. So anything you don't maybe get answered from Chelsea, you can always shoot me an email and I can make sure everybody has that at the end of this. If you do, we do want to keep this very conversational and very light and a little less like webinar talking at you. We want to talk with you. So if at any point during the presentation you have questions, you don't have to hold those to the end. There is a little raise your hand function in your participants window. If you just want to put your hand up, we can definitely call on you and unmute you and just kind of keep it flowing more workshop style, a little more hands-on, like a conversation. So I do want to just kind of say that. And we'll be showing you some like very practical things and always happy to help. Anything you have, we also do as CPRO have some one-on-one consultations. So if there's anything extra that maybe doesn't get covered here, or you want a little more in-depth kind of tutorial on something specific you see here, feel free to, I can put a link in the chat as well to sign up for those consultations. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Chelsea and she will kind of kick us off with how to be the one-man band when it comes to social media.
That is indeed what I am, as a one-man band, one-woman band. And I'm gonna like get my screen going here in a second. Hello. So yes, my name is Chelsea Jones. I am the communication specialist at the Animal Welfare League of Arlington. So if you don't know, that is Arlington County's animal shelter. We are not a county facility, so I'm not a county employee. We are contracted by the county to run animal sheltering on their behalf. So that's what I do day in and day out. I do social media. There we go. I help with emails. I do a lot of things. I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I'm very much kind of in everyone's business all the time. So I do a lot, but social media is definitely very much my thing. So I'm excited to chat with you guys. I've been doing this for about 5 years now. Although as a millennial, I guess I was sort of like born into it in a way. But what I would love is to quickly just go around and like meet everyone real quick. It would be really helpful for me to know where you work and like what your role is with social media. You know, are you the business owner? Are you specifically doing social media at your job? All that kind of stuff. So I don't know, Amanda, do you want to help me kind of like get everyone going?
Yeah, let's kick it off with Jennifer.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Jennifer Mulchandani, the founder at Arlington Strategy. We're actually a comprehensive marketing and communications firm, and we are currently supporting two businesses that are in CPRO. So we work with the credit union, Arlington Community Federal Credit Union, and Washington Workplace. Nice. So here just to meet you all and say hi and hopefully get to know more about the CPRO community. So
awesome.
All right, Julius, you want to introduce yourself? JD?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Julius D. Spain, Senior. Many people call me JD. I'm currently the president of Arlington Branch NAACP, which is a nonprofit 501c4 social justice organization. I received this invitation and I'm just here to listen in. Of course, our social justice organization is always looking at ways to expand in the social media platforms. So it's just interesting to be here and kind of like listen in today. So thank you.
Awesome.
Okay, Michael, you want to introduce yourself? You there?
Hi, I'm Michael Jordan. I'm a physical therapist with Movement X. I go to people's homes for care for that. I also have a small business called SCNR Training Systems that I do personal training in a lot of the local parks where I can go to your homes or virtual for that as well.
Cool.
Kim is actually not probably with us. She's having a dryer delivered, which is fun. Shannon, why don't you go next?
Hi, my name is Shannon Bailey. I am the Senior Director of Account Strategy at Morvang. So we are a manufacturing and technology company, and I'm on the board with CPRO. So we have really recently ramped up a lot of our marketing efforts, particularly to our warm network. So we've had a lot of marketing going at large, SEO and acquisition. So we've really pivoted to more to our existing networks, and social media is on our radar. So we have a pretty lean team. Myself and some of my colleagues work it. So I feel like a one-man band with a little bit of support, but I would love to hear what you're doing and to better understand how we can pull this off and do more than what we're doing now, which is not enough.
All right, Susan, you there? Want to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Susan Sirocco. I work in Arlington Economic Development. I'm the Director of Creative Economy. And as far as I'm concerned, too much knowledge about social media is not enough.
Yep.
I love it. It's very true. It's changing all the time. So.
All right, H. Tavold, not sure we've met before. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, my name is Haroni Tuwalda, and I'm with La Cocina VA, a workforce development nonprofit here in Arlington, and I work as a business consultant. And we just actually launched or opened our new facility, so I've been working on social media strategy to set up the team in that respect, and I just look forward to listening and learning more.
Welcome. We're so excited about La Cocina. We can't even stand it. We're touring the facility on Tuesday, I believe. So.
Oh, that's great. Thank
Looking
you.
forward.
Yeah.
All right. Kelly, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Good morning. Kelly Reinfuss. I'm the Director of Communications with Arlington Economic Development, Susan's colleague. And I'm responsible for all the communications, marketing, and outreach for economic development. And I am very fortunate. A part of my team includes a digital strategist, Sarah Van Velser, who formerly was the Vice President of Digital Strategy with Ogilvy Communications. So she is our one-man show, so to speak, like yourself, Chelsea. And I'm just here to find out what's going on with the Pike and our small businesses and how we can help you stay afloat during this time. Thanks for having me.
All right. And then Lucero, are you there? Want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Lucero. I am an intern working with CPRO. I'm just assisting whatever they need, and primarily on the business outreach side. And I'm just here because I want to honestly know more about this, and also I'll help you with the knowledge to gain to help all those businesses on the Pike.
Yay!
All right, I think that's everybody.
Is that everybody? Awesome. So that's actually really cool. It sounds like we do have people that are a little more versed than maybe beginners. So what I've put together is kind of a basic thing about managing, but of course, if there's more advanced topics that we want to get into, we totally can. If you can't tell already, I love to chat. So like I said, feel free, ask questions. Don't feel like you can't. I am more than happy to get off topic about other social media things if this is all just kind of we know this already. So with that said, I guess we can get started. So I already introduced myself, so I don't have to do that. Yes, there will be some cat photos. Maybe my cat will make an appearance. We'll see. Animals always make it better. So we'll see what happens. All right. And
I'm on to my next webinar today.
All right.
Oh,
so
sorry, guys.
My biggest thing with managing your social media is you do have to really kind of think down to the basics before you can go and do more exciting things. So one of the first things that you should do, if you haven't already done, is find your voice. Know what your voice is for your organization or your business. And that's something that sometimes comes very organically through the person that's running your social media. It also can be a more strategized, organized thing that you sit down as a group of people and decide together. We kind of did both at the shelter. I started as a social media, I guess I'm not a manager, but we can call me a manager for now, about 5 years ago. And the person before me had only been part-time. So it was kind of, we only had like 8,000 followers on Facebook. It was still pretty small. There wasn't a lot of organization. There was multiple people that could post and get in there. It was a little disorganized. So naturally, by being the only person that was posting, my voice kind of came through as the shelter's voice. But pretty quickly, we also sat down and identified a very specific, written down, this is what we want to sound like when we speak to people through email, social media, any kind of digital marketing. And we do have this written out in a branding guide. And that's something that actually my coworker recently made within the last year. And it has been extremely useful for us to have a PDF branding guide that anyone in the building can use. If anyone doesn't have one of those and wants to see ours, I'm happy to send it to you. Just let me know at the end. That's been really, really, really helpful because it keeps everyone in the building, in the business, in line with what we want to say, what are our colors, our fonts, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, out in that we have written out our voice, which is, like I said, conversational, but not overly casual. We try to be funny if we can. Obviously, we try not to be sarcastic because that can often come off as rude when you're dealing with the public. We're optimistic yet practical, passionate yet controlled, and informative, but not academic. So we do have a very defined voice at this point, which means that if I'm on vacation or somebody needs to take over for a little while, it's not going to immediately sound like, wait, who's writing this? Because this sounds totally different than what we've been used to before. It helps with that, keeping everything congruent. So I do highly recommend defining that for yourself, even if you're the only person doing it and it's maybe you're just the only person in the business, it still can be really helpful to define that for yourself. So speaking of that, once you found your voice and you know what you want your voice to be, is who's going to tell your story. And I really wanted to put like a Hamilton meme in here, but I couldn't find one. So if you know that joke, it can be tempting to just kind of let everyone do stuff and like have the business owner and the manager and the social media person all having access to your social media channels. It's very easy for things to get confusing and out of hand doing that. So I highly recommend that you pick one, maybe two people that are managing your social media accounts. If it's you, great. Realize that sometimes that can get a lot if you're maybe a manager or a business owner and you're also running all of this yourself can get to be a lot. Having a dedicated person, if you're able to, that manages, social media and other forms of digital communication can be very, very helpful. I hear it all the time that my boss is very glad she doesn't have to do what I do. And it means that person can really focus and get into the nitty-gritty of social media marketing. I think a lot of people brush it off sometimes as being like super easy, like, oh, I have my own Facebook account, I can do this. There are a lot more nuances and things to do with this job, and things are changing all the time. I don't know if you guys know, but Facebook and Instagram did another algorithm change recently, which has fudged up some of our normal marketing techniques. So there's a lot to do with it. So definitely finding someone, if you can, that's their dedicated role is very, very helpful. We also do have a written social media policy at the shelter. It's kind of in different parts. So there is, like I said, in our branding guide, there is how we manage social media as a business. We also do have social media policies for our staff, but they kind of wrap into what we talk about and what we post about. So again, if that's not something that you guys have, I'm more than happy to send it along. It's been very, very helpful. You can refer back to it for yourself if you're running your accounts. And it also does help with making sure that everyone is comporting themselves online in a way that we would want them to as employees. Definitely recommend having one of those as well. So one other thing that I do like to talk about for those of you that might be bosses, managers, is if you do have someone that is running your social media channels for you, me in that case, you know, my manager does not have anything to do with it. She's an admin, but that she doesn't really touch it. Trust them, let them do the job that you've empowered them to do. If you have a situation where you have a social media coordinator, but then you have other people that have access and are posting and they feel like they can't say anything because you're their boss, it can get very messy. Most social media people, and we're going to get into this, have a schedule and have a plan in place that they're working on. And so having other people that kind of come in there and mess it up can be very frustrating and can actually be detrimental to you know, the message that you're trying to get out there. So if you decide to put someone in charge of it, let them be in charge of it, and try not to get in there and even if it's in the best interest of, oh, I found this super interesting article, I want to post it, send it to them instead. Say, hey, this is cool, would you mind posting this? They'll get it into their schedule and it'll be a lot better that way. So the next thing about managing, and this is something that I think can be forgotten sometimes, especially in small businesses like ours, is what are your goals? What are you actually trying to do with social media? I think what happens a lot is that people, you start a business or you come on as a manager, and you think, oh, we have to get on social media, we have to get on Facebook, we have to get on all these different things. And sometimes it can get lost of why you're doing it. So that's really important also to identify, what are you trying to get out of using social media? So these are some from a company called Sprout Social, which we're actually going to talk about later. These are some of the top social media marketer goals. So thinking about some of these is really important. And depending on your business, these might be really different. You know, as an animal shelter, a lot of our goals are vastly different than maybe a for-profit businesses would be. But just making sure you have those in mind, and they are going to drive what you do. So, you know, for us, we kind of have a policy that we don't post things that are not our own content. So I typically don't cross share cute videos. Even if it's a cute video of a kitten, I'm not going to share it because it's not really putting forward our goal, our mission that we have. So identifying those is really, really helpful in managing your accounts so that you can stay on track. And you can, you know, like I say, keep on that mission that you have. I'm like, does anyone have any questions so far, or like want to chat about anything? It's fine if not. Just gonna pause there for a minute. Okay. Hopefully, if you're being quiet, it's because I'm doing a good job. All right. So I'm gonna kind of combine all these things: voice and goals and action. This is really, really, really important when you're managing social media, is understanding how your voice and how your goals and what you're posting on social media affects your followers, because it's a very fickle field. You can lose people and gain people all the time, every day. Some people are going to have a lot of loyalty to you as a business or a brand. A lot of people are not. And if you annoy them and you post too much, or you know, they're just gonna like, I'm done, I'm out. So thinking about what makes someone stick with you as a company and what makes someone unfollow you as a company is really important. I found this data, which I thought was super interesting. And I thought we could kind of talk about this a little bit. And again, this will be different if you're, you know, a for-profit versus a nonprofit, but I found it super interesting that being responsive was the #1 thing that made people stick with a company or move to making a purchase. And I'm sure we can all agree that we've been in those situations ourselves. You know, just the other day I had something I bought, it came and it was the wrong item, and I was annoyed, but because I heard back from the company immediately, they said, nope, we're going to get you a new one, we're going to upgrade your shipping, done. And it was super fast. I was like, oh, I like these people, this is good, and I'm probably going to buy from them again. I got the warm fuzzies from hearing back from them so quickly. That is a very important thing in social media, I have found. Even if you're not posting that much content, if you can make sure that you are responding to people as quickly as you can, as politely as you can, and solving their problems as soon as possible, you're going to be on people's good side. And it's something we talk about a lot, that we are finding people are much less likely to go through the kind of usual channels, traditional channels to get a problem solved. So email, phone, they're not doing it anymore. They are going straight to social media. I can't tell you how many times in a day I get, even an animal control emergency. Someone will send us a Twitter message saying, oh, there's an injured fox. And I'm like, why are you tweeting me this? But they are, and we just have to deal with it that way because they're used to getting a response in that fashion. And I think as much as sometimes it may seem odd that they're doing it that way, if you want to have a strong social media presence, it's really important to be responsive. We could totally talk about time management because that does factor into this. And I am very much guilty of responding to the 11 p.m. tweet from someone that's asking a question about adoption. We can totally talk about that if you want. So I always say responsiveness within limitations. Obviously, if it's 1 a.m, you don't need to respond to that person unless you really want to.
I will say I have personally found that the auto reply thing that Facebook lets you set up is extremely helpful. If someone gets that automatic message saying, thank you for contacting us, our staff monitors messages during this time on these days, then that helps kind of set an expectation. And it helps kind of train your customers to not reach out to you at 11 o'clock at night. They know you're online monitoring your messages from 9 to 5 or whatever you decide it is. And it's better than them just not hearing back from you until the next morning. As long as you have that auto reply on there, it's very easy to help kind of set those expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can put as much information as you want in those autoresponders. We actually need to update ours, but we have like links to kind of frequently asked questions on ours. So, if you're inquiring about adoption, go here. Those are really helpful. And kind of pro tip is Facebook does, its algorithms do give some people priority based on how responsive they are. And they don't care if people are messaging you at 2 a.m. But if you have that autoresponder set up, you will keep a higher, what they call like a response percentage, and you will be shown a little bit more on people's feeds. So that's a very important thing to have. Thank you, Amanda, for mentioning that. In the same vein, people can leave you very easily if you are not managing your accounts well. And to a certain extent, people, like I said, people are fickle. They're going to unfollow for reasons, and we can't really control that, but we can manage some things about what we're doing. So this data, obviously, again, from Sprout Social, they found that too many promotional messages was the number 1 reason that people started unfollowing an account. And so for us as a nonprofit, we may not be quote unquote selling a product, but we have fundraisers, things like that. So we are also very careful about how much we may ask for donations, or we might push a certain event, because after a while they're going to get sick of hearing about it. So we try to balance that very carefully. Unrelevant information is a big one. I like that tweeting too much. I was like, is that a thing? Can you tweet too much? I guess you can. Use of slang and jargon that doesn't fit the brand. That's another big one we can talk about if you guys want. I often get very jealous of businesses like Wendy's and Chewy who have a lot of fun on their social media. It's not appropriate for everyone, and you kind of have to figure out where you lie as a business, and again, what your voice is, in order to do things like that, which I know we all wish we could have very snarky responses to people on Twitter sometimes. But we have to make sure it's in brand, So these are all really important things to consider when you are coming up with a social media plan and putting a management plan in place. So this is often a question that gets asked a lot. What channels should I be on? This is really going to be somewhat personal, somewhat time management related, somewhat brand related. So for us, the animal shelter, we mostly use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm trying to get better about using LinkedIn, kind of more from a networking perspective. I'm working on that, but it is recommended for a lot of businesses to use LinkedIn as just another social media channel. I'm going to briefly touch on TikTok and Snapchat because I hear this all the time is, should we have a TikTok? Should we have a Snapchat account? Personally, unless you are a super high profile company that can afford the crazy kind of Snapchat ads that they have, no, Snapchat is going by the wayside in favor of things like TikTok. Forget about Snapchat. Don't do it. It's not worth your time unless you really want to, and then let me know how it goes. TikTok. We're going to talk about that. If you don't know what TikTok is, don't worry about it. You don't need to worry about it. It's for your teenagers. If you have been debating like, oh, maybe do I need to get into this as a brand? My opinion on that is no. I actually just yesterday got an ad on Facebook for creating a TikTok business account so that we could have ads. And I was like, oh, they're getting me. I was talking about this yesterday. But the thing is, that's not what TikTok was made for. And as much as they may try to now start bringing in brands into their platform, that's going to very quickly mean that people are going to leave, because the kids, the teens and, kids, and honestly, I've seen like super elderly people on there too, which is awesome. They're not there for us. They are there for each other. It's a creative platform. I personally just don't think it's really a place that we need to be. We can annoy people by being on some of these platforms where they're like, why? No, this isn't supposed to be corporate. This is supposed to be just for fun. On another note, I think I just read today that it's getting that ban maybe going through anyways, so we may not even need to have this conversation. So we'll see what happens with that, I guess. And then from a security perspective, my husband is actually a cybersecurity engineer. He does not recommend having this app on your phone. There are a lot of security issues that we have found and data collection issues that have been discovered from this company. So just all in all, I don't think you need to worry about it. Again, if you really want to try it, I did. We experimented. I gave up on it after like a month. It just wasn't worth my time. And it was just another platform that I had to manage, right? And that was 5 that I then had to manage, and it was just too much. So with these more standard platforms, you don't have to have all of them. If you're sitting there and you're going, oh God, I have to like create all these platforms or manage all these different platforms, you don't have to have all of them if you don't want to. Again, it's thinking about your goals, thinking about what you want to put out there to your supporters may influence what you decide to use, and so may your demographics. If you're trying to reach 20 something, people that are really interested in, creative assets, if you might, Instagram might be the place for you. It's very visual heavy. It may be that if you're more trying to go for the older crowd, 40 and up women, Facebook is going to be more your scene. So it just is going to really depend on what you're trying to reach. If you have the capacity to do all 3, great. If you have one person that is dedicated to doing this all day long, awesome. Get all 3, get a strategy going for the 3 of them. But don't feel like you are required to do all of them. You're not. I think it's a trap that often we fall into, and I fall into it as well, as feeling like, oh, I have to do that. I have to be on all these platforms, and I have to post X number of times a day. And if I don't, I'm going to lose my status in the newsfeed. In the end, the world will not end if you don't post something on Facebook one day, or you're not on Twitter. Like the world's not going to come crashing down around you. So just taking a breath sometimes and realizing that you can take a step back and, not feel like pressured into doing everything all at once is actually going to make your feeds probably a lot better, because your content will be more focused. It will be more thoughtful. People are going to enjoy it better. So that's what I recommend. Is there any, do anyone want to talk about like this aspect of it, which I know is probably getting more into what you maybe wanted to talk about today? Anyone?
I will say, like, the greatest advice I ever got in regards to this is to, if you're new to social media, to pick one and get good at it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once it's like in your wheelhouse and you've got it on auto basically, and you're running it just fine, then you can start to learn another one. If you're trying to learn multiple platforms at once, it's easy to get confused. It's easy to get overwhelmed. Yeah. And each platform does have, in addition to, its own specific audience, its own specific content. Like if you host a lot of events that you want people to RSVP to, That's Facebook. Twitter and Instagram do not have an event section.
Nope.
They do not have that kind of platform. If you're posting a lot of content, it's like pictures of your products, you're doing a lot of pictures, that's going to be Instagram. And if it's a lot of just like quick updates, super informative, and just wanting to stay on like newsworthy trending topics, that's going to be Twitter. So it's also, it's the audience you're trying to reach, the content, and just picking one that you think you're going to be able to get good at first and then move on. And LinkedIn is the most specific of them all. I'm right there with you, Chelsea. It's one that I've definitely been able to use as a person. I've definitely see the value in the individual networking. It's one I've had a hard time wrapping my brain around for a company as a whole.
Yeah.
And I think it's very, honestly, if you're going to move on to LinkedIn, the first thing I would say is to get all your employees around a single idea.
Yeah.
Because basically when everybody's linked to your company, that's how people get to you. So if somebody's on a person's page looking at their profile, that profile does need to be reflective of your company, because that's how they're going to get to you. They're not typically looking for companies right away. People tend to go to LinkedIn to look for someone they've met at an event to connect with. So that's my advice there. So I would definitely say, as a brand, if you're looking for brand awareness in particular, to start with the Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter based on the content you have. Be my like number one thing, and then move on to LinkedIn once you kind of get employees kind of rallied around that concept.
Absolutely. LinkedIn is like the medium level
Yeah.
of social media. It's a weird one. And like I said, I'm still learning. And honestly, for me, sometimes it's even, I just don't have the time to have another one, but I'm working on it. But yeah, no, I think it's really important to remember, for me, it's quality over quantity. I'm not just going to post everywhere all the time for the sake of it. So if you don't have enough bandwidth right now or enough content to post on all 3 of these accounts, don't do it. Just pick one. Make sure that your posts are really good quality, really interesting content. And then, once you let the hang of that, you can start moving on to one of the other platforms if you want to.
Or Shannon has something?
Yeah, I was going to ask a question. One thing that we think a lot about over here is using social media as a recruiting tool for people. And so, that's an element of brand awareness. I'm just wondering how, if that's kind of part of your thought process as far as recruiting volunteers, or we think about employees, but how that might, influence or kind of affect the content that you're putting out there.
Yeah, definitely. So we, both employees and volunteers. So we have a team of about, I think we're just under 50 now, full-time or part-time employees. So definitely both volunteers and employees. We don't do a ton of direct sort of we're looking for volunteers, because we just get them all the time anyways. But through just a more almost subliminal way, if you can make your business or your place of work seem really fun, really engaging, they're interested in what you're doing, you're being transparent about the day-to-day operations of your nonprofit, they're going to be interested in coming to work for you. And I think that absolutely can be, volunteers, employees, either one. If I'm really engaged with a company's social media and I'm really interested in what they're doing and invested, and they seem like a great place to be, then I'm gonna maybe want to explore working there. So yeah, it's definitely always in the back of our mind that we are, essentially bound to our community to show them what we're doing, and doing it in a way that is creative and engaging, for sure.
I think it can be tempting to always try to make sure you're putting out some sort of finished product, something very polished and very, this is our public facing thing. But I find that, you do have to remember why these platforms were created. It's social media. You do want to kind of have that less formal presence where it's not like I'm seeing a company's page, I'm just seeing a friend's stuff show up in my feed. So anytime you can share behind the scenes, or this person's hard at work at their desk, or anything that kind of makes it a little more personal and a little less like I'm interacting with a company, the better. And that can automatically just help you promote your workplace culture and what it's like to work there, which will help. It's a brand awareness aspect rather than a direct recruiting tool. I mean, LinkedIn definitely has its recruiting tools, I would say. It's a good place for that. But really, it's more about the promoting of what your workplace culture is like.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I view LinkedIn as kind of like a living encyclopedia. It's really for you personally, like to
Yeah.
go, oh, I'm meeting with so and so. Are they on LinkedIn? Can I look up what they're doing? And can I, it's a refreshment tool for your brain,
Mm-hmm.
and a catalog system of your contacts. It's not really I don't view it really as a company's social media thing. I mean, I think companies should be on there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not this. I don't view it as social media. I really don't.
It's interesting. Yeah, I also thought that when they said like, hey, are you like doing anything with our LinkedIn? I was like, no, why would I? Like, why would I do that? And I was like, isn't that the HR person's job? Like, why would I need to worry about that? But I've definitely been kind of now keeping a little bit more of an eye on it. And I would say I have seen it being used a little bit more as almost like, I don't know, I'm trying to think how to describe it, like business social media, it's very targeted, but the people that do use it in a kind of social media fashion, they're posting like, oh, look at this cool video that we've just put out, or this new product, or we're launching this, we're doing that. It's not going to be for everybody. And I think different businesses use it very differently. It may be that for, one business, it's super useful. And for another one, it's like, this is not something I need to waste my time on. So it just depends. Like I said, I'm still really learning about it. So I don't have all the answers for LinkedIn just yet, but
Chelsea,
it's a weird one.
Well, Chelsea, this is Jennifer. So I think it really comes down to what is your type of business? Because for companies that are B2B, LinkedIn becomes much more of a critical platform than if you're trying to engage a consumer audience.
Yeah.
But for nonprofits, where LinkedIn has a huge opportunity, is to use it to showcase all of your business sponsors.
Yep.
and to sort of talk about the fact that cause marketing is win-win, and it's a place it's a transactional business space unlike any other platform, because when people go to LinkedIn, they are there in their professional mindsets, whereas when you're scrolling midday on Facebook or Instagram, you're probably on a brain break. You're not looking to be inspired by a brand. People in LinkedIn are there with their business hat on, and so it's an opportunity to position, whether it's your organization or your business, in a thought leadership realm. So it's a great platform if part of your communication strategy is to be an industry leader and to want to create content that is about what you know better than anybody else.
Jennifer, I would ask if you could address Shannon's question in the chat. You might have good examples of what you just spoke about. I also want to bring Kelly in to see if Kelly has anything to add.
Yeah, as economic development, I'm sure you guys use LinkedIn a lot more than some of us that are directly speaking to the community or consumers.
Yeah, I mean, I would second what Jennifer said in terms of being a thought leader and connecting. And we probably do use Facebook and Twitter more often, but we do think we definitely need to have a presence on LinkedIn, not just in the Rolodex format, but in the looking what our partners in other jurisdictions are doing, and also learning more about our businesses in Arlington and building relationships with them.
Great.
Yeah, and so Shannon asked a question in chat about an example. We don't work with them. I just know the company through the chamber and through other, groups in Arlington. But Next Up Solutions in Clarendon, they do a great job on LinkedIn in terms of developing their thought leadership, being value added, having a lot to say about their business model. It's a tech company, but they have partnerships with universities to do sort of these internships that are souped up. I think they do a really good job. I would say, like, the clients we're working with to build out LinkedIn, the way it has to work is the company puts out the really good content on the company page, and you have to have your principles in your business. And you were making this point, it's like your principles have to be then sharing it, because generally your audience is not it's unlike Facebook and whatnot. They're not streaming business pages that aren't getting followed. And it takes a really, really long time to organically build a LinkedIn following. So you have to leverage the individuals in your organization to then share the company posts. And that's how you start to build company following, but also build your brand. You could get amazing reach and engagement on LinkedIn in an almost easier way than you can on any of the other platforms because it's built for business.
Yeah.
You have to have more people involved. To Chelsea's point, it's not just the social media manager doing their job, getting good reach.
Yeah, it's definitely a place that requires everybody to be involved.
Yeah.
Hey,
And I think that's immediately why it factors more into, like you said, business to business things. You know, there's no way I'm getting everyone on my team to go on LinkedIn and share things. We don't really need to do that. But if you're a business that, like I said, is more interactive in that way, explore it. Let us know how it goes.
Hey, Chelsea, I'm going to ask a question because as a community organization, we get a lot of helpful advice, let's say, from the public at large. And one of the things that I hear a lot is, why aren't you on Nextdoor? So can you speak to the thing that is Nextdoor?
I guess I didn't even really think about putting that there, but yes, I can. Nextdoor. Who is anyone in here on? I wouldn't think so. Anyone?
We technically have a Nextdoor. We don't use it.
Yeah. So Nextdoor is a beautiful, wonderful, horrible thing that I have a love-hate relationship with. We do, as a shelter, have an account, but it's kind of a weird one because Nextdoor does not allow most businesses to have accounts. I think you can have accounts as like that are very limited, but you can't like I think you can, it's just like you exist. It's almost like a Google business account. You can't like really post anything or like respond to anyone. It's just like, hey, I'm here. Hi. You know. So we do through the county. The county allowed us to sort of use their account to post very specific things. We have like a very short list of things I am allowed to write about on Nextdoor. So it's a tricky one. It can be really great for community engagement. For us, we use it for lost and found animals, you know, super important like community health messages, like if there was like recently there was a rabid fox identified in a neighborhood, and it was very useful to be able to put that out to everyone that, you know, we only have 20,000 followers on our Facebook, and there's some 80, how many people are there in Arlington? Like a lot more than that. So that it's very useful in that aspect. I don't think most businesses can really use it in any kind of capacity.
I believe the concept, you know, because Nextdoor is basically just talking to your neighbors. And they do allow businesses to kind of create a profile, kind of like a Yelp profile, if you will, where people can recommend. So if you're looking for somebody to do a roof repair, then they can say, hey, I recommend this business. And I believe actually in order to have a business platform, you have to have X amount of like recommendations before it takes your page fully live and gives you any kind of control over it to change your information. So it's kind of more along the lines for businesses of an Angie's List or a Yelp reviewing kind of platform. For nonprofits, it does let you have a little bit more control of posting kind of more community messages, but it does not really allow for selling or photos of products or things like that most companies are going to be using social media for.
And I believe to have an account where you can actually interact with people like we can, you have to be a government organization. Like you have to be police, fire, you know, county, like, so it's very limiting. So if you have anyone that's like, you guys should be doing this, you can just let them know, like, I physically can't, it won't let me.
The best thing to do if you find that a lot of your audience is on Nextdoor, which is mostly an older audience looking to kind of connect with neighbors that don't really want to use the other platforms because it can get a little big and beyond their local scope. The best thing you can do is kind of have ambassadors that are within that neighborhood, because you do have to actually verify your address. So like I can't be on the Arlington Nextdoor because I don't live in Arlington. Like they actually send you things and call a landline and verify you are a neighbor. So your best bet is to kind of have ambassadors, be it people on your board or employees or something that can kind of put a little bit out there. But if even they get caught kind of upselling you too much, it can be problematic. So
I mean, to your point, Chelsea, I really view Nextdoor as the lost dog and lost cat place to go.
Yeah,
very much.
Or I want to complain about random things in my neighborhood.
It can be very, very complaint heavy.
Let's just say
dangerous.
I joined Nextdoor when I bought this house I'm in, and then I promptly left it because it annoyed the crap out of me.
Yes, it can be very negative at times.
Well,
I think you make a good. Oh, sorry. Go
ahead.
No,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying, if you have people in your, your followers or your community that are willing to kind of, like I said, be ambassadors, it's very helpful. We do have a couple of volunteers that I have sort of tasked with, because then I don't live in Arlington, so I can't even personally join it and respond and be like, hey, I work at the shelter, like this isn't true. So there are a few people on there that we do ask to let us know if there's a community issue going on, because we can't see it. We can only respond to posts that either we are messaged about or that someone tags us. But it is a platform that can get very nasty very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to stay out of it, except for very important community information, basically. Yeah, every so often my CEO will be like, did you see someone said that someone's saying this about us on Nextdoor? And I'm like, oh, well, so either someone sticks up for us in the community, or we let sleeping dogs lie, because sometimes people are going to say things about you on the internet and there is not a whole lot you can do about it, other than just keep doing the amazing job that you're doing and prove them wrong. It's kind of, Nextdoor's weird. I don't know.
We are getting a little low on time, and I do want to make sure we get to the slides about the scheduling, the time management of it all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the most important thing. Yeah, sorry, wait, I love that everyone was like, Nextdoor, terrible. But yes, so management and scheduling, super important, especially if you are, like I said, a one-man band or in a smaller business. It gets really hard to keep up with all these different accounts at the same time. So we can absolutely talk about management software, which was it just saved my life when I discovered that it was a thing. So what these programs do is allow you to manage all of your accounts in one place. You can post to them all from one place. Some of them you can track your insights. You can look at your data through them. They're really, really, really helpful. They all have their flaws. They're not all perfect. And some are going to be better suited to certain businesses than others. But I definitely, if you have more than one platform, I recommend getting one of these. And even if your one platform is Facebook, I may recommend getting one as well, because Facebook's Creator Studio I don't like it very much. Maybe that's just me. I am not a huge fan of their scheduling abilities, and their Creator Studio is odd. I don't know. So even if you're doing that, you may still want to think about getting one of these. So personally, I use Buffer. And if there's time at the end, if anyone wants to actually see what Buffer looks like in real life, I can pull my Buffer account up and we can play around with it. It's pretty basic in that works for me, because we don't really need anything super fancy as of yet. But it does allow me to post to all three of our accounts at the same time. Edit them different for each platform. I can check messages on there. It's good. I really like Buffer. It is, like I said, very simple, very basic, but it's also very affordable. And there is a free version that you can get. It is a little bit limiting, but if you're just getting started, it may be a really good option. Hootsuite is another one that I have used in the past. I kind of fell out of love with it just for different reasons, but it worked very well for a long time for us. It's another, I would say, a little more on the basic side, but I think that one does allow you to check your insights and track some of your data. So then if you are more advanced and you want to get into some really fancy management software, Sprout Social and Zoho Social are two that I would recommend looking into. I personally have not used them on a daily basis. They are a little out of our budget right now for a little bitty nonprofit. But I have other colleagues and other organizations around the country that use both and love them. So those are also two that I think would be beneficial into checking out. Again, if you're new to this, all of these can be a little overwhelming when you first get started. I remember the first time I logged into Hootsuite, I was just like, what am I looking at? I don't know what to do. So, always feel free to email me or send, I'm happy to help. But there's a lot of training and stuff out there. And honestly, I'm a huge advocate for just clicking on things and seeing what happens. That's mostly how I learn. But
I would say
you do get into the swing of it.
I would say each definitely has their pros and cons and are different for what you're doing. I use Buffer as well, and I absolutely love it. If for nothing else, then it allows me to actually post to Instagram from a desktop computer, which you can't do. It's app-based only. There is no, you can log in and scroll through stuff, but you can't post to Instagram from your desktop without some sort of external platform. And it allows me to plan things out. I don't know how many times I'm like, there's this thing, it's happening in 2 months, and I want to make sure I don't forget about it. And I can plan something out 2 months in advance, and I can kind of look and see, okay, there's this new thing that's happening that I want to add to my schedule, and I can completely rearrange without having to retype posts, completely reschedule, and just pause things if I want to, and it's very intuitive. It was for me, at least. So Buffer is a good place to start, particularly with your free account.
Yeah, it's pretty easy and it's pretty basic. So if it's, if you've never used a social media management tool before, that's where I would start. If it's too basic for you, you can upgrade to something else. It's been really helpful for me. Like you said, being able to push stuff to Instagram is awesome. It's a little glitchy sometimes. Every so often it'll just be like, oh, it didn't work, and it didn't tell you, and I'm like, why didn't you tell me? But sadly, I cannot talk to technology as much as I wish I could. But I really, really like it. And you can use it on web, on your phone. The phone app is pretty good. And I use it almost every day. So I recommend that one. And for those of you that are maybe a little more old fashioned, don't worry. I also do use a paper planner. And I think I actually get loads of surprise sometimes when I walk around as a 31-year-old with a paper planner. For my brain, it works. I do have the social media scheduling software, but for me, it's just really helpful to also write down what I want to post. What do we have going on this week? I highlight. That's why I have my pink highlighter. When I've done it, I write it off. And for some people, that works really well to have a paper version. So don't feel like because you're doing all this digital stuff, you can't also have physical things. If it helps you to have it written down on a planner, do it. So like I said, I don't really use Buffer so much as like a planner as much as just okay, I can schedule this and on Monday to go out on Friday, and I can forget about it and move on to other things.
It's also great because I know a lot of people just getting started with social media or with adding a new platform. They're like, I can't keep up. I have to post every single day. Well, with a scheduler, that's the number one reason to use it is that you don't have to post every day. If you kind of sit down and spend a couple hours one morning and you plan out the week or the month or however long you want to plan out in advance, you can, and then it's just done. For me, I do often have to pay attention when I get the notification that my buffer is now empty and I need to do it again, because when I haven't touched it in 2 weeks, because everything's been scheduled out, it can be easy to not really keep up. But it's definitely one of those tools if you are managing your business, if you are trying to run your business and do social media, it's an absolute must to be able to schedule and plan out in advance so you're not having to stay on top of it every day, because that's not your focus. Your focus needs to be on your business. And so these things are extremely helpful. And again, I will put in a plug here for CPRO that we do have the one-on-one technical consultations, that if you are trying to get into a new piece of software, particularly Buffer, I know Chelsea's definitely happy to show you her Buffer and show you how that works and what she's got going on. CPRO's happy to do the same as well.
And I'd be curious if anyone is using something different, if there's anything out there where they're like, oh, I use this program, it's great. I don't know.
We use something called Sendable.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that one. Mm-hmm.
And I just love what you started with though, Chelsea, and you said all of them have problems.
Yes, all of them. You're
And
not going to find a perfect
I'm telling
one.
you, for the AED people on the call, if you've got somebody who's going to build the perfect social platform, there is such a need for that. They are all, and we've test drove 10 of them, and we test drive them every year to make sure that we're still recommending the right platforms. And you've nailed it.
It's kind of, it can be frustrating sometimes. And like I said, as I've developed, as our social media presence has developed, I've changed. You know, like I said, I started with Hootsuite and I switched it up because it just wasn't working for us anymore. So you may also like switch back and forth between different platforms as well. Something I wanted to say for those of us who may be like a much smaller business, or there's just one of you, is also just remember that social media scheduling does not necessarily mean that you have to every Monday plan out your entire week and have it all ready to go. For some people, that's going to work great. For maybe larger businesses or different kinds of businesses, you have to do that. You need to have your plan, and you got to get this done on Monday so I can focus on other things. I don't do that because the nature of my job is that things change every single day. A dog that's up for adoption on Monday is probably not going to be here on Friday. So there is no point in me scheduling a post about that dog for Friday. So I do operate on kind of a little bit more, I like to call it the fly by the seat of your pants method. But we do have, like, we know what events are going on. That's all written out. We have communication plans. So at least for the stuff that is a little more thought out in advance, we do schedule that stuff. But I sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what am I going to post on Facebook today? And I don't know when I wake up on Monday. So it definitely find what works for you. And I think that's something that is a lesson I've learned over the last 5 years is there's so many rules that get put out there about social media, and you should post this many times a day and you shouldn't do this and that and the other. Yeah, but also you have to find what works for you, and there's a definitely amount of trial and error that you just have to post it, see what happens. I have so many times posted a video that I thought was so adorable and everyone's gonna love it, and just nobody paid attention. You just kind of have to experiment and do what works best for you. So don't feel too pressured.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. We are at 11 o'clock.
That's okay. I talk too much.
That's quite all right. No, it's been a great conversation. And I'm not remembering. I know you've shown me. Is there anything else that you need to touch on real quickly from your presentation, or was that it?
Nope.
That was it. Okay, good. And I apologize. We did not get to our kind of more roundtable, just general conversation. So I do want to kind of put that out there just for a couple minutes. If there's anything that anybody wanted to bring up beyond social media that is just going on in our business community that you want to bring to our attention, that you have a question about, or if you have a suggestion for maybe our next business roundtable, we are going to try to do these monthly. Jennifer actually had a great suggestion that maybe talk more digital strategy broader than just social media, like when we talk about Google business platform, because we did mention it briefly here. So that might be something we touch on. So I do want to check in, particularly with La Cocina, since you guys are new to the Pike, and to see if there's anything specific you maybe wanted to chat about, or if this was helpful for you at all. I'd love to hear from you. Is it Haroni? I'm sorry, because I'm used to the names being written out for me.
Sorry, I was taking a second to find the unmute button. But yeah, I think the comment that Jennifer outlined about Google My Business is something that we're looking into now, because people are looking to us for our cafe, which is one of the revenue generators that we've implemented, and our more nonprofit program side, and just, I guess, creating a more clear distinction between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're, discussing those things along with Yelp. So yeah, I think the digital strategy piece is something that we're working on. But this has been super helpful to kind of learn, one program at a time or one platform at a time, because our plans right now are, all over the place with trying to revamp. So maybe focusing on, Instagram and Facebook for the time being is something we'll have to look into.
Absolutely. We can definitely, I think digital strategy as a whole, it's great to kind of get the basics and understand that social media doesn't have to be scary, but there is a lot beyond social, things that need to be set up, like your Google business, your Yelp page, things that you don't always manage on a day-to-day basis, but that need to be kept up to date, because that is a lot of times people will just type into the Google bar on their phone for something. They may not go straight to a social platform. So absolutely, I think digital strategy and talking about focus, it's a very unique situation for La Cocina having essentially the two businesses. I think that it's very interesting to kind of talk about how to, CPRO I think has that issue sometimes where we're just a community serving organization. And that means we have like 20 different programs running at any given moment to serve a different need in the community. And sometimes those lines can get blurry about how you message one versus another and how you make sure people do recognize it all coming from the same organization. We ran our farmers market for 30 years and people still don't know that CPRO runs that market. They assume it's, run by the person, the fresh farm or whatever that runs all the rest of the Arlington market. So having that identity, I think is definitely something we can absolutely touch base on and have some conversations around in some of our future roundtables. It's a great idea.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Of course.
All right, I think unless there's anything else, I think we can wrap it up. I don't want to take up too much more time of anybody else's day. Thank you, Jennifer, for joining us. Thank you, Ronnie, everybody that has since kind of left us in the last few minutes because we did go over time a little bit. Stephen, you want to wrap it up? No, you're fine. It was a great conversation.
No, thank you for everyone joining us, and thank you, Chelsea. It was fascinating, and we hope it helped people out there. And just keep your eye out on the next business roundtable for next month, where it looks like maybe we're going to explore digital strategy.
Possibly. And we will post a recording of this to our website, and we will send our participants kind of the slideshow and some links and additional resources that were discussed in the chat as well, so that everybody kind of has that to refer back to. So definitely keep an eye out for that.
And in the meantime, if you're in need of a quarantine therapist, head to the Animal Welfare League.
I was gonna say, that's the other service I can offer is if anyone's looking for an animal, let me know. You got your hookup right here.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Chelsea.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Bye.
Bye, everyone.